Welcome to our exploration of Samhain, the ancient festival that marks the end of the harvest season. The festival that is at the beginning of winter. Some pronounce it Samhain, like I saw when he did that, and others pronounce it Samhain, like he was solving a problem. It depends on where you're at. It is believed that it comes from one of the most important Celtic holidays around. We know that the Chinese have their own New Year. We know that the Koreans have their own New Year. And we know that most of the world follows a Greco-Roman calendar, a Gregorian calendar. And that is absolutely true. There's a lot of mosquitoes out here, and my blood must be delicious to them. Samhain is the Celtic New Year. It is the time of new beginnings. Dating back thousands of years, we are going to dive into its origins, the traditions, and how it has influenced modern celebrations that we follow today. And with that, happy Halloween. That's right, Halloween is the celebration of Samhain. The carving of pumpkins used to be the carving of turnips, and trick-or-treating is actually a Celtic tradition. The Celtic roots of Samhain originated in the ancient Celts who lived in what we now call Ireland and the UK and parts of France. So Wales, Brittany, Scotland, Isle of Man, Isle of Monks, Francia, Ireland. It was the most significant part of the 4 seasonal festivals. If you are a part of the Celtic faith, and you know of the Wheel of 8, you have what many would know as spring, summer, winter, fall, and then you have the solstices, the halfway points. So between spring and summer, and between, summer and winter, you have autumn and the different solstices that cut the wheel in half. I think I misrepresented when I spoke just now, but you get the idea. There's 4 main things, right? You have winter and summer, then you have spring and fall, and then you have the halfway points of each of those. Those are the solstices. The 4 main, the most important of them all in the Celtic wheel would have been summer's end, Samhain, or sow-in. It's when you reap your second harvest, your final harvest, before you shelter down and you hibernate, much like bears. It is one of the biggest parts of the Celtic festivals. It is where you celebrate your harvest, where you celebrate life, where you celebrate love, where you celebrate your loved ones' death. Death is very, very big in this time of year. The Celtics say the veil is lifting upon this time of year. Throughout the year, we get entrenched in our lives. We go shopping at the grocery store. We go partying at the random festivals that are held everywhere. Sometimes it's a birthday party. Sometimes it could be something as simple as working too much. And this is from the modern lens. But it does translate very well to the ancient times. We get so entrenched into our lives, we forget to pay homage to those that have come before us. We forget to pay homage to our ancestors. And when we get to the point that winter is starting to come and set in, we start remembering the somber attitudes that fall upon us. And that is, quite frankly, people die in winter. Winter was a very dangerous time. If you didn't reap enough harvest, people would die. If you ate too much food too fast, people would die. If you didn't stock up enough firewood, people would die. So winter is in our bones, is in our soul, that it's a dangerous time. And that's okay, because it allows us to remember those that came before us, our forefathers, our foremothers, the mother maiden and crone, all those people who struggled and strived to enrich the lands to make sure that we who are still alive thrive. And as we get into the darker part of the year, that veil starts to come off the earth, and the spirit world is allowed to visit the living world more and more frequently. And that's where you get spirits and ghosts. And that's where you get two different realms meshing for a small brief respite of time. That's where you start communing with the spirits. Samhain was a time to honor our ancestors and the dead, and the Celts believed that the spirits of the deceased will return to the world for this one night. And families would set places at their tables for the departed. You can find this still happening in some places around the world. In Wales, some places in Ireland, some places in Isle of Man, some places in Scotland. But the most, I think, Americans might see it is in Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, in Mexico. In Mexico, it is tradition to set out tamales and pastele and different types of food that your ancestors would be happy to enjoy, to know that you are bountiful enough to donate some food to them. And they burn candles with these skulls made out of sugar skulls, and they are decorated ornately, beautifully, intricately designed skulls. And what it used to be was the skull of their ancestor would be painted beautiful to remind them of the beauty of their ancestors, if I recall correctly. But nevertheless, they would burn candles, create vigils, and they're very Christian in Mexico. So a lot of them would have the Virgin Mary and other deities or other saints, and they would burn the candles and wish them a safe travel in the afterlife and wish them a wonderful life in the afterlife and give them food and wish them well. And they believe that as long as you remember those that came before you, they are forever alive and they don't die. So they pass on their lineage to the next of kin. The kid that comes after them will grow up knowing of these names so that they never die. That is very, very, very close to what they do or what they did in ancient Celtic times. Samhain would have actually had very similar practices. The only thing that scares people is that it wasn't only benevolent spirits. Malevolence can seep into the world when the veil is lifted as well. Maelstroms of evil spirits seeking to right the wrongs done to them by others. Murderers coming back to find another victim. People who were murdered coming back to lay vengeance on the blood of the murderer that laid them to rest. And so there comes a time when people realize that these malevolent spirits are walking amongst us And they would put on masks, particularly scary masks, whole outfits. And if you go and you look online, you'll see some. There will be some in this video. I assure you that you'll see some. But these outfits were designed to scare off evil and scare off bad spirits. And you only welcome the good spirits into your home, your ancestors, your family. But it wasn't only to protect themselves, but also to get up to some hijinks. It was to be bringing brevity into the holidays. Kids in masks would run up and say trick or treat. And if you didn't give them a treat, they played nasty little pranks on you. Think of high school graduation pranks. Not so much egging of houses or detrimental things like, setting a fire on your porch and you have to stomp out the poop. I mean, although that would have been a pretty good hijinks. But they would have done some things like, in some places, they might sneak in and flip all your furniture upside down in the middle of the night. Other places might do something, it depends on the kid's wit, but might tie your shoelaces down while you're sitting at a table at dinner. You didn't give a treat, so now you must be tricked. Today, mostly, trick or treat is literally a saying that is used, and that is all. Your kids aren't going to go out and play tricks because they expect the treats. But if they don't get the treats, on to the next house. But the trick or treat is actually a good thing because it encourages how should I put it, communal grasp of it, the communal aspect. Everyone should be a community together. They should denote their bounty that they got from their harvest onto you as well. So as time goes on and the harvest doesn't really matter, of course the term is going to fade off into just being a simple, basic matter, a commonality. Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. If you don't, I don't care. Whatever the kind of phrases that they have going on. That is what we see today. But there was another major aspect that we lack in Halloween today. Because in ancient times, they held mass bonfires. Bonfires stacked 7, 10, 20 feet tall. They would make bonfires in the shape of deer, in the shape of bear, in the shape of men. And they would make these bonfires touching the sky as tall as the trees. These bonfires were a place where you would hold a large gathering. Everyone in the city, everyone in the town, every town folk would gather at the bonfire. And they would take a lantern and they would light their lantern with the bonfire. And they would take it home. And this is possibly where the origin of will-o-wisp comes from. But they would take the bonfire home and light their hearth, their fireplace in their home, to warm their home with the community fire, to show that we are all together, we are all one, we are all unique and separate, but whole in part. But also at the same time, this also shows that we all come together to help warm each other up, right? And these bonfires also had all kinds of different celebrations behind them, because the bonfires were central to Samhain, and these fires were considered sacred, and they would ward off evil spirits and purify the land. They burn off disease. They burn off the bad bugs. If you're burning cedar and you're burning pine and you're burning red oak, and you're burning alder and elder and rowan. Each one of these different types of trees burn with a different smell, fragrance, and ash style, and put out different gases, and the sap has different scents in them that ward off bugs and danger, diseases, and famine even. Because these bonfires purify the air, purify the land, and purify what they believed was their soul. So they would also throw bones into these fires. That's where the term bonfire comes from. The term bonfire actually comes from the term bone fire. These bones could be animal bones, human bones. They would hold pyres. A pyre, in today's term, a pyre is a cremation fire, a bonfire meant to burn a person to ash. And these fires would happen all over, and it was normal and regular. But it was especially, particularly needed and desired during winter's end, or winter's coming, summer's end, Samhain. So these bonfires would be a massive, massive part of the celebrations. But there's another aspect as well, and that's divination. The peels of apples and the nuts and different objects like bones, even casting bones or casting runes or staves. And staves, back in the old days, a stave is just a staff, a stick. The stick of warding is actually interesting because it's just a long stick and it's used as protection. It's a protection stick. Today in America, a warding stick would be a 12-gauge shotgun. That is the staff of protection in American society. And these were used for divination back in the days. Obviously, a 12-gauge shotgun is not going to be used for divination unless you shoot a target and look at the spread of the pellets, and you can use the spread of the pellets to determine exactly which. I mean, I am literally turning shotgun firing patterns into divination, which is what they did in ancient Celtic times. Not to get too far off topic, but what I'm saying is they used random things and mostly aligned with nature. And I guess nature is also including warfare and violence and stuff in that as well, if you want to keep that metaphor going congruent. But outside of that, there's always been influences that transform and the transition on that was actually really well. Shotguns used for divination is a way that would be a transformation of an ancient rite into a modern rite. And thanks to Christianity and its influence, Christianity transformed what was across the Celtic lands as Samhain. Because as Christianity spread across the Celtic lands, Samhain underwent significant changes. In the 9th century, the Catholic Church moved the celebration of All Saints' Day, or All Hallows' Day, here we go, to November 1st, the day after Samhain, or the official day of Samhain, because summer's end is October 31st. All right, which is All Souls' Day. All Souls' Day is actually November 2nd, right? And in an attempt to Christianize Samhain, the evening before All Hallows' Day became known as Hallows' Eve. Hallows' Eve eventually became Halloween. So now we have Halloween from Samhain because the Christians renamed Samhain to All Hallows Day, and from All Hallows Day to All Hallows Eve, and Hallows Eve to Halloween. And despite the shift, many Samhain traditions persisted and blended into these Christian holidays, creating a hybrid festival. As I said before, they used to take turnips, and this was often a big thing in Ireland and Wales, but they would take turnips and they would carve into turnips and later pumpkins and gourd-like gatherings. They would carve in evil spiritual faces, and they would put a candle in it, and it would ward off any evil spirits. And these continued on for many, many, many years, all the way up until 2024. These are rites and rituals that have been practiced since before Christ, since the Bronze Age, more likely. And Samhain in modern times, today, is still celebrated by some. They're like Wicca, Druidism, Neo-Druidry. Halloween, meanwhile, has its tricks and its treats and its costumes and spooky things, has become a mainstream cultural event, started and carried on by those who you would know as the Celtics. So, Samhain's history is one of the most transformative and adaptive, evolving, and ancient Celtic festivals that is now a global cultural celebration. Whether you're lighting a bonfire or dressing up with thousands of years of history, Samhain reminds us of the cycles of life, the importance of remembering our past, and the magic that exists between the worlds, both seen and unseen. So remember this year, when you're dressing up as your favorite character, be it Michael Myers in a hot dog costume, Oscar Myers, be it a bunch of cereal boxes that you have murdered, you serial killer, be it the plug and socket for those lovely couples, the jam to the jelly, the banana to the split, whatever the case may be, the alien carrying you away to the UFO, the old gag costumes, or the scary ones, the wicked witches, like my mom does, with prosthetics and full facial paint and my pretty. No matter what it is, remember your ancestors. Remember the traditions that came before. Remember Samhain. Summer will come to an end. The world will die. The earth will let out its final breath for just a couple months. And when it breathes in again and everything comes back to life and spring has sprung, we will be again gracious. And then we will sow in to go through the year again and reap the harvest. Because that is the cycle of life. And that is what Samhain represents. The end to the cycle of life. But it's a cycle. It's cyclical. It's a circle. It is not a one and done. And so we will sow our fields. We will grow our fields. We will reap our fields. And then we will celebrate summer's end once again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And make sure you guys stay connected for further content. If you guys are enjoying my videos, I would highly appreciate some feedback. And I also would like to say, right now we are in South Carolina. I'm in a small little pine outcrop, a grove, if you might. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoy a wonderful Samhain or Halloween for my Christian fellows. Remember your ancestors, those who came before. Love you all. Have a great day. Bye.